The mug says it all. I put this in here, and this made its way into the Discord, and I just thought it was really funny. This dude, RenofMen, named Will Spencer, Renaissance of Men. Ladies, the age of women's leadership is ending. What age of women's leadership? Where are you looking? In America? What? You guys still haven't had an American president yet. We've had a Canadian prime minister. Ireland's had leaders that have been women for quite some time, historically. So, what age of leadership would you be referring to, sir? Feminism blew it spectacularly. You now have 3 choices. 1. Find a godly man. I can't read. Find a godly man to submit to. 2. Become a ward of the state. And 3. Become property of a wannabe warlord. I'll live in the world of men. You'll live in the world of men one way or another. Choose! Because these are the only 3 types of men, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Wannabe warlord. Who is that? I don't know who this person is referring to. I do appreciate this only has 112 likes, though. It's how ridiculous this is. Renew yourself. Sovereignty, transformation, masculinity. Look at that face. Ain't that a lovable face? Peak manliness. Troublemaker and host of the Renaissance of Men's podcast. Christianity and masculinity are not in conflict. 'Cause of course. Why are there so many podcasts like this? Why are there so many, like, Christian men being like, women fucking suck and we're gonna tell you how to be? There's so many podcasts like this. Remember before, like, not too long ago, I said the internet was YouTube, the debunking communities, just the internet in general is a fucking sausage fest? Yeah, this is what I mean. I've been Christian for less than 3 years. But I've been studying religion and spirituality worldwide for more than 30. There's nothing clearer, simpler, and more beautiful than Christianity. And there is nothing more powerful, inexhaustible, and complex. Repent and believe. My guy, my buddy, my pal, this dude. Start here. Yeah, let's go. Let's go to his link. Let's see what's up. I'm gonna close these just to get my tabs under control. There we go. Okay, click to subscribe. Stream ladies conference videos. Oh, what's this? Renaissance of Men digital conference series, Saturday, June 3rd. Videos 11. Dear sisters, wisdom. Feminine, not feminist, dignity. These are all locked behind a paywall, by the way. I can't watch these. I'm not gonna pay this guy $20 for this fucking bunch of garbage. That is not worth $20. Alright, what else you got? Podcast, YouTube. Okay, let's go to the YouTube channel. Let's see what he's got. Can I go to... Alright. 2,000 subscribers. Alright, so he's about the same number as I'm at, which, I guess is fair. What is the Renaissance of Men? Why is it 20 minutes long? Alright, well, you know what? I'm here for it. Are you guys ready? We're gonna settle in for this? I hope you guys got popcorn. Because, you only know he's a real man because he broke his nose. That's how you know. You guys ready? Just do it. It is 9 p.m. on a Tuesday after a long weekend, and what am I doing with my life? You know what? I woke up really late today. I think I said that already. I was really, really tired. I think it's ovulation. Ovulation knocks me out. I get my period. I get like 2 to 3 days where I'm actually 2 days for sure that I'm useless, and then 3 days or like one of the days I'm like, and then I'm okay for a couple of days, and then I get knocked on my ass again because I am exhausted. I'm pretty sure it's ovulation. Ovulation just makes me sleepy. Ugh. I sat outside while it was raining with my dog, drinking tea, ate an egg. This is how I spent my day, and I didn't do things that I should have done, but I did a bunch of stuff yesterday. That was good. Just making excuses to procrastinate hitting play on this. Oh, God damn it. I can't be in charge of the world because I ovulate and I need 2 days off a month. That's Oh God, I should have bought some wine. My birthday is coming up next week, which means I have done my month of no beer, which I only failed a little bit on because I drank 1 beer while I was at karaoke, and that's because somebody bought it without my consent and gave it to me, so I drank 1. But other than that, I did really good. All right. I hit play. I play.
Here are some facts you might find shocking, or maybe not. According to the CDC, obesity rates for American men today are the highest of all major countries, at over 40%.
What a weird way to start your intro video for, like, this is my YouTube channel. Men are fat! What? Whoa, what? Okay. Yeah, it was good beer. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some. I think I'll get something good for next week. Sorry, I made it 12 seconds. I'm sorry.
What is wrong with men? Here are some facts you might find shocking, or maybe not. According to the CDC, obesity rates for American men today are the highest of all major countries, at over 40%. Testosterone is down 20% compared to 1999. Men make up only 40% of college students and graduate 14% less often.
What do you mean? What do you mean only half? Half is what you want. You want men and women both going to universities and colleges. Why are you treating this like it's a bad thing? This is a good thing. What do you... Sorry, I want to click back and I want to read the other one. Testosterone abstract. Testosterone deficiency has a prevalence of 20% among adolescents and young adults, males, although previous studies have shown that total testosterone levels are declining in the population compared to prior decades. No study has identified TT level, total testosterone level, trends for young adult males specifically. Using data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Surveys, we investigated TT levels of 4,045 men from 1999 to 2016. After controlling for confounders, we found that mean TT levels declined over time. TT levels were lower in the latter 2011 to 2016 than in earlier 1999 to 2000 cycles, all p less than 0.001. Elevated body mass index, or BMI, was associated with lower TT, but the trend remains significant even among men with normal BMI. Limitations include the influence of controlling variables such as environmental factors and use of differing assays for TT measurement. Further studies using other data streams are needed to validate these findings. So this is just okay. Well, this is a rough start. Presenting that other people are going to college besides men, and that in this abstract of the title of which I don't know what the study was even supposed to be about, which says that it needs further fucking findings.
19.
Nice that you cut it right where it says that. Funny. Weird.
99. Men make up only 40% of college students and graduate 14% less often. Young men ages 21 to 35 are 60% more likely to be living with their parents. And
yes, people are living with their parents because, one, the fucking main family of 4 is bullshit. And 2, like, the American dream home was bullshit to begin with and wasn't necessarily the best way to live anyway. And 2, economic status. But I digress. Alright, increase in young adults living with their parents as of July. More than half of Hispanic, 58%, and Black, 55% young adults now live with their parents. Wow, different cultures live differently, and cultures that have historically lived in large family groups are continuing to live in large family groups. Compared with about half of white, 49%, and Asian, 51% adults. Young men are more likely than young women to live with their parents, and both groups experienced increases in the number of shared residing with mom, dad, or both parents since the beginning of coronavirus. I can't imagine why people would have started living together during a huge economic downturn and a medical crisis in the country. How bizarre. Similarly, a higher share of young adults in metropolitan areas compared with rural ones live with their parents now, but a number in both areas grew from February to July during COVID. Shocking. Well, you know what? Maybe he's gonna make a decent... maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe I'm jumping the gun by reading the thing that he posted and jumping to the gun about what his point is for bringing this up, because he did say what's wrong with men, and so far none of these statistics are telling me that there's anything wrong with men. So what's the conclusion gonna be, do you think? By the way, note, living with a parent refers to those who are residing with at least one parent in a household. White, Black, and Asian adults include those who report being only one race and are non-Hispanic. Hispanics are of any race. The percentage points changes are computed from rounded shares. Source: Pew Research Center analysis of 2020 current population survey monthly files. So, there you go.
21 to 35 are 60% more likely to be living with their parents. And tragically, men's suicide rates have reached a post-war high, more than 3 times the rate of women. Again, I ask, what is wrong with men? If we reply honestly, the answer might be everything. Boys are...
Why are men? Everything. What's wrong with men? Everything. What's going on with dudes? Everything. The suicide rate thing is really rough. But, like, that's not because they have something wrong with them. Suicide rates are related to a ton of different things. And just to say that there's something just wrong with the entire... Oh my god. This is an answer I would have given as a joke. What's wrong with men? Yeah, everything. Yeah, because they're men. I don't know. Oh my god, this was way more amusing. I was not ready. I need to go back to standing while I do these streams. I gotta stand up for a little bit. I haven't done my workout this morning because I was just so freaking exhausted today, so I'm planning on doing it later today. Or doing it once today, so I'm doing like 2 days on where I do double, 1 day where I do half, and then 2 days double, 1 day half. That's the go-to. So I'm just gonna move my chair back. I gotta stand up. I'm sorry. I'm dying. I'm gonna try not to fall over. All right. Here we go. Hi, I'm standing now. I'm sorry. I needed to stand up. Oh no. Okay. Men, like, I am all for giving men more support in when it comes to some mental health issues, for sure. So let's see what this guy has to say.
They're struggling too. Parents, it's no longer about your son getting good grades in school. It's about protecting him from video games and pornography, failure to launch, and even gender confusion. And women, I bet you see...
Trans people! The true villain dressing in drag. Gender confusion. What the flying fuck does gender confusion have to do with living with your parents? I mean, I could argue that being discriminated against for being trans could put you in a position of not only increased suicide rates, but also discriminated in the workplace might be a reason why you would live with your parents. What the fuck is gender confusion, by the way? Can I look that up? Do you think I'll find, like, a real thing? What does gender dysphoria is a thing? Yeah, okay, but what is gender confusion? Yeah, all of this is actually, like, about... Here we go. Encyclopedia.com. Let's see what this says. Alright. Gender confusion is a non-clinical term that refers to an individual's feeling of not identifying with his or her assigned gender. In popular and scientific discourse, the term has been associated with diagnostic categories for transgendered and transsexual individuals, such as gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. Gender confusion may also be used to describe behavior that is a symptom of these conditions. More generally, gender confusion refers to children, adolescents, or adults who either consciously or unconsciously do not present, behave, or identify as strictly male or female. So it's kind of nonsense. It's kind of a nonsense term that's being thrown around and used to weaponize or, I guess, discredit, devalue somebody's lived experience.
That the men in your lives are missing something. Some lack vitality and courage. Others lack empathy and depth. Have men always been this way? If only we could make sense of it all.
If only
someone had answers.
If only this guy who's been a Christian for 3 years could tell me how to fix my problem.
My name is Will Spencer. I'm a Stanford graduate, former tech entrepreneur, and world traveler, and I'm the host of the Renaissance.
Former tech entrepreneur. Hold on. What did he say his name was? Will Spencer. Okay, hold on. There's his Instagram. Nope. No, LinkedIn maybe? See if this is the same guy. I can't tell. No, this guy's in Ontario, Canada. This can't be right. Yeah, no, that's not right. I don't think that's right. Tech. This guy? Nope. Not that guy. This guy? Nope. This guy? Nope. Well, there does not seem to be any, like... He's gotta go fund me for $100,000. He's gotten $200. What's this for? Hi, I'm Will Spencer, the producer and director of Renaissance of Men docuseries. I started the Renaissance of Men in September of 2020 to document the global rebirth of masculinity. That helped me and thousands of men around the world change our lives for betters like this. 2012-2020. So the secret to helping yourself be a better man is to grow a beard. I intended for it to come out that year and make a big splash in the culture, but then once I began filming, traveling 14,000 miles in over 110 days in the summer of 2021, I discovered that the story was much bigger than I understand. Sorry, let me zoom in this in for you guys. God. As a result, the 2-hour documentary grew into a multi-part docuseries. The good news, much more time to go in-depth into the Renaissance and its origin. The bad news, I didn't have the money to complete it on my own. And I spent 2022 fundraising to complete the project and got stonewalled at every turn. I even hired the top documentary fundraisers in the world, and he couldn't make it happen. But every member of the public that I've talked to has told me they want to see the project. Member of the public. Okay. And with the majority of shifts in masculinity discussion taking place all around us, I think it's time. So I need your help. I've long said that once I raised $100,000, I'll start the production engines and get back on the road because I have many more interviews to complete. That's why I'm reaching out to you today. Shouldn't you already have the amount of, like, the product that you initially had already went on a trip? Like, you've already done the trip? Shouldn't you already have that shit? I believe the story of the Renaissance of men is the hope that America and the world needs. Once men see that there's been a movement happening for 40 years to rebirth masculinity, they feel themselves part of something. Okay, it is 2023, so 40 years ago was, hold on, I'm getting out a calculator. He started in 2020, so 2020 minus 40. Oh, hold on. 2020 minus 40. That's the 80s. The Renaissance of men has been happening since women got the right to... black women got the right to vote and have bank accounts. The leadership of women is over. The movement has started since women were allowed to fucking do anything. Okay. Alright. Rebirth of masculinity. I mean, I'm all for destroying fragile and toxic masculinity and making men androgynous again. There's nothing hotter than an androgynous boy. Androgynous men are hot as fuck. They understand they're not alone. There are millions of men around the world experiencing the same, and there are 4 decades of men whose shoulders they're standing on. 4 decades. This is literally the 80s from 2020. Documentary's not about me. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue with his 20-minute introduction video.
Sons of Men podcast. I've been studying this subject for 20 years, and I have some answers.
Wow, that's half of the time that he claims that the movement has been existing for. Surely there must be some kind of leader to this Renaissance, this resistance, this change, this movement that has existed. Surely.
The answer for how we got here, I call the war on masculinity. The answer for what's being done about it, I call the Renaissance of Men. And the answer for what will fix these problems with benefits for men, women, children, and society, I call the Great Reconciliation.
So I'm just gonna point out here real quick is the war on masculinity started as soon as women were allowed to vote and to have bank accounts. According to him.
Let's begin with the war on masculinity. Our story starts in the past with something called the household, pictured here. This mural inside the United States Department of the Interior depicts the way of life for men, women, and children for centuries. Once upon a time, we weren't all separate.
Guys, there's America and not America. Oh no.
We shared the same space for more than a few hours at the beginning and end of each day. We weren't living disconnected lives, crossing paths at mealtime. A family had one life together. Because the home was the center of economic production, not the office, and the home was the center of education, not the school.
I need to sit down again. Oh no. We are more connected than we have ever been via the internet. He is describing a time period where the schoolroom, when school was free, and two, when the schoolroom was made up with one teacher and all grades, because there was only a total of, like, maybe 30 students for the entire hamlet. He is also describing the 50s while depicting the Wild West and, like, life on the prairie. Right, like, this, how do you expect industry to exist, like, any kind of current industry to exist under those circumstances? And again, we are more connected than we have ever been.
And all that changed during the Industrial Revolution. During the Industrial Revolution, for the first time in history, fathers were taken from the home and forced to work in factories or on the railroad. And that shift had consequences.
I don't know if this is how you want to be describing the first time that men were taken from their homes. That is certainly not the first time. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Apparently this dude needs a history class, and I guess I should have called Dapper in for this, because... oh boy! This is, we are 2 minutes into this video.
As the poet and author Robert Bly wrote, "The traditional way of raising sons, which lasted for thousands and thousands of years, amounted to fathers and sons living in close, murderously close proximity, while the father taught the son a trade, perhaps farming or carpentry or blacksmithing or tailoring. As I've suggested elsewhere, the love unit most damaged by the Industrial Revolution has been the father-son bond."
You mean the bonds of survival? Meaning that, like, if you don't do this, you're going to die, and also it doesn't matter how abusive I am to you, I'm allowed to do that, because if I don't, you're going to die, you have literally nowhere else to go. And now that people have options if they don't want to be around their abusive parents, and if people do have businesses, children are not required to maintain that business. This is very absurd to kind of present history in this romanticized way as if, like, it's good for the children. Because he did say at the beginning this was going to be good for society and children and for women, right? But, you know, it's better for women to just sit down and shut the fuck up, right? Like, what am I even doing here?
In that moment, the chain of father and son was broken. This was the beginning. After the
Maybe your bond wasn't that great then. If the man and, like, the father-son bond was so good and so strong, just being in a different location really shouldn't be that big of a deal, should it? Maybe your bond wasn't that great or wasn't that strong to begin with. Maybe you need to learn new ways to communicate with your kids. Maybe? Perhaps? Maybe I'm going too far. That's... Sorry, is that too womanly? Is that too emotionally mature for the men? I like to think not. I like to think a little bit better of men than this guy does.
Industrial Revolution followed 2 world wars and a Great Depression. In World War I, 10 million soldiers died. That's the population of London today. Then in World War II, 25 million soldiers died. That's the population of Australia. The best and the brightest, the swiftest and the smartest, gone forever. The men who returned were broken in body and in spirit.
Do you think this guy ever went to war or was in part of the military at all? Because I've definitely got some people who have been part of the military who have spoken to me about their military experience, and this is not how they would describe the people they were working with. Also, World War II was conscripts. Also, women were part of World War II. Also, more than just soldiers died in those wars. And this is like, again, I would like to point out there is America, and there is not America. Yes, those wars were horrific. But it seems like he's kind of skipping over the point.
spirit. Winston Churchill wrote of World War I,
Yes, PTSD.
"The wounded died between the lines. The dead moldered into the soil. Merchant ships and neutral ships and hospital ships were sunk on the seas, and all on board left to their fate, or killed as they swam. Poison gas in many forms stifled or seared the soldiers. Liquid fire was projected upon their bodies. Men fell from the air in flames, or were smothered often slowly in the dark recesses of the sea. Europe and large parts of Asia and Africa became one vast battlefield on which, after years of struggle, not armies but nations broke and ran." This is what happened to Dad when he was taken from the household. This was the story of 2 generations of men.
What, so they weren't taken from the household for the Industrial Revolution and for jobs, they were taken to go to war. And men had never been taken to go to war before that. Not for exploratory purposes, not in cavalries, not in anything before this. It wasn't until World War I and World War II that men were taken from the households to go to wars. Nope. No war existed before these wars, guys. None of these things happened at all. There was no such thing of what had gone on in either the history of China or Japan. No history that exists in India. Britain was not a place that was even real until World War I, guys. Come on. Spain was not just sending people around. There was no Spanish Inquisition that happened and may or may not have taken, families and ripped them apart. No, nothing happened in France. Nothing happened to the people who would have been considered gypsies at the time. That wasn't a thing that happened. No 100 Years' War. No. Sparta, not a place that exists. Greece didn't happen. Not real. None of these things are real. Right? I'm sorry, you got me at the Spanish Armada. It was completely AI controlled. This guy's saying that we need to be concerned about video games, and that's what's breaking families apart and ruining men. Don't let your kids play Black Flag or any of the Assassin's Creed games, because then they might learn a little bit about history.
These men also came home to rebuild in the 1950s. They'd experienced the horrors of war. They were wounded, angry, unable to communicate the pain of being shot, of hope.
Did he just skip the 40s? He also skipped the Roaring 20s. Like, he just was like, World War I, World War II, 50s. We're just gonna skip the Roaring 20s. We're just gonna skip the 40s. Right into the 50s. Which was still a time of economic boom, by the way. Although I do agree that there was a lot of... Because a lot of these men who went to war were very, very young. Particularly those that were conscripted by America. Canada didn't have conscription during World War II. We didn't end up conscripting anybody as far as I recall off the top of my head. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't fact check me on that. I'm not 100% sure, because it's been a long time since I looked. But I'm pretty sure Canada did not have conscription during World War II. However, America definitely did. And so America having conscription during World War II, the people that were being conscripted to go to war, the men that were going, were very young. In World War I was 15. Yeah, 1916, 1917, 1918. Whoops, all of 1940, all the way to 1949. Yeah. 15 sounds right. So a lot of these people would not even be considered adults when they went to war, and that is like just America. That we're not counting. We're not even including who Russia was sending to war. We're not including who Germany was sending to war. We're not even including who Japan was sending to war. As well as people that were a little bit more on the front lines who were in front war. So for example, Ukraine. If you're in Ukraine right now, there is not really a choice about who you're sending to war. Your whole country is embedded in war at this point. So people who were in Germany at the time, or in France, or in Belgium, were I know in Austria, like, surprise, surprise, there is no, whether you're part of the army or not, you're at war. And it's scary, and so you'd have people who are all the way from like, tiny tot all the way up to elderly. Yeah, Germany had children on the Eastern Front towards the end of World War II. Right, exactly. This guy's just talking about America. Right? And though I do agree there's a great lack, particularly back then, all the way until now, I would say it's gotten better, but it is still a serious lack of fair treatment of veterans. I don't even know if veterans has gotten any better, but fair treatment of veterans is horrific, specifically in America, as well as mental health access and education for men in both these areas. So, but this guy is attributing the problem to the wrong thing, it seems to me.
Hopelessness and terror, and of grief in the loss of their brothers. John Wayne, the stoic defender, spoke to them, but someone else was speaking to their kids. Because if World War I and II were a war on men's bodies through combat, the 1950s began a war on men's minds through culture.
And women, dipshit. Women were a part of World War II. Women were a part of World War II. Women were a part of World War I too, but in an official capacity, women were a part of World War II. So trying to pretend that women just weren't involved is absolutely fucking ridiculous and absurd. And then to just skip... We're just hip-hopping along into the 50s to say that we're attacking men's mentality. When did women's suffrage happen? What year was that? Yeah, John Wayne, the renowned racist, sexist, and anti-Semite. Yeah, yeah,
Sure. Hugh Hefner started Playboy magazine in 1953. Elvis Presley...
Oh, lag. Not Playboy, that wasn't definitely
his hips
for
swung
men.
into living room the same decade as Marilyn Monroe sang, "Diamonds are a girl's best friend." The supposedly idyllic 19...
What? He's gonna call Elvis? Wait, this guy is calling Elvis an attack on men? I'm sorry, I've gotta swing this back. He's calling Hugh Hefner and Playboy an attack on men's mentality? Yeah, it's true that World War I and World War II was kind of a nightmare for misogynists because it showed that women could do work and keep the country running. Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes. That women could do and would do and were doing the job that supposedly only men could be doing in the first place. You are 100% correct. I might have to refresh this. We made it 5 minutes into this video, guys. Good job. Okay, I'm gonna run a quick ad.
Presley's hips swung into living room the same decade as Marilyn Monroe sang, "Diamonds are a girl's best friend." The supposedly idyllic 1950s laid the groundwork for the 1960s and the sexual revolution. In the 1960s, sex was catastrophically divorced from fatherhood, and providership was replaced with the pursuit of pleasure. Free love, said the hippies with the pill. Turn on, tune in, drop out, said Timothy Leary with acid. These were precursors to porn and video games today.
Precursors to porn, you say? As if there were not pin-up girls that existed and bomber girls that existed in the 30s. As if the roaring... Again, he straight skipped the roaring 20s, as if flappers weren't a thing. He wants to go back to the wild, wild west, but completely ignore that brothels are the thing that kept America floating. Are you serious? His cherry-picking of history and misrepresentation of history of what had happened. Yeah, that's the Beatles. This was a precursor to video games? The fuck? We have Greek and Roman porn. Yes, there were fucking shoes that women who used to prostitute back in the day would wear that had like directions on them and you could follow their footprints. There's graffiti with "For a good time, call this number." Porn had existed for a very, very long time. The sex sells and has always sold. It's been a thing forever. As long as there's been people willing to trade sex for things. Fucking monkeys do that shit currently. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna give this guy a quick break. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, just to give everybody a chance to catch up. Oh boy, we found us a pretty boy here. Oy, 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 oy. I was not prepared for what I was getting into today. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Alright. Alright, alright. Let's keep going. He's gonna tell us about the Beatles.
Meanwhile, the Beatles had young girls longing for rock stars, not husbands. Vietnam sent capable boys overseas to be destroyed. Woodstock played a...
I'm sorry you lost me at the Beatles wanting rock stars instead of husbands. As if, like, those can't be the same thing. You can marry a rock star. You can be with a musician if you want to. That's a thing that can work if both people are amicable to that lifestyle and like the stuff that comes along with it. A very good example that's gonna fly in this guy's face eventually. Aaron and Mortimer, like Egoraptor from Game Grumps, has been with the same woman since high school. They were high school sweethearts. She is the only woman that Aaron has ever been with, and they've been together ever since. He plays video games for a living. I don't know what to tell you. And anybody who tries to say Aaron is not manly can go just shove it up your ass. Like, you just don't know what you're talking about at that point, quite frankly. In my humble opinion. But, I digress, I guess.
Siren song for draft-dodging sons to enrage their veteran dads. And men were...
Oh, you mean that people opposed the Vietnam War because it was a bullshit war where there were war crimes being committed? That war? People fucking opposing that shit? You mean music had commentary about political activism at the time? Who would have thought? Who could have possibly thought that might be the case? And like, younger generation opposing the decisions by an older generation, that never happens. That's never happened before until this singular point in time. That's why the French Revolution didn't exist, right? That never happened. Civil War wasn't a thing that happened. We don't see issues with Brexit currently, right? No. Okay.
were torn apart from each other and their fathers. Then everyone got the message about what happens when you try to stand for something.
Good point, JK. Good point. Wait, I thought war was bad because it destroyed men's, but now protesting the war is also bad. Yep, there's no winning here with this man.
This will be the day when...
How dare you!
The 1970s introduced Archie Bunker, the bigoted dad who confirmed men's worst fears about fatherhood. Rock stardom offered another path before disco took over, and pornography was normalized with John Holmes and the Devil and Miss Jones. And in the
pornography has been normalized forever. Just because you want to oppress it, and certain groups have succeeded in oppressing it and repressing sexual desire over decades throughout multiple points in history, throughout many different areas of the world, does not mean it is A, the best thing to do, and historically does not seem the best thing to do, nor does it mean that porn just stops existing for any amount of time. Porn always existed, porn always will exist, and I'm pretty sure one of the running jokes is if you got rid of porn on the internet, there'd be one website that just said, bring back the porn. Archie Bunker was also pulling a long-established media trope. You are correct.
In the 1980s, the media announced new expectations for masculinity for boomers becoming parents themselves. Androgynous
Boomers, no!
rock stars, steroid
Yes.
super soldiers, and corporate raiders.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
This was all happening while men were in charge, dude, so what's the problem with women again? Also, was that David Bowie? Was that David Bowie he popped up on there? It was kind of quick, I didn't see who it was. Yeah.
These represent aspects of men: strength, skill, courage, and vision, but they're not.
What does greed represent? What does corporate greed represent? What's the good aspect about that? Is it ambition? Is corporate greed supposed to represent, like, drive and ambition, and that's the positive trait that you're supposed to pull out from that? You could kind of, like, take any positive trait and make it a toxic piece of
Not
garbage.
fathers. This isn't a coincidence. The first no-fault divorce law was signed in 1969. Skyrocketing the rates of single motherhood. And we
Is skyrocketed the results of single motherhood? You're not even gonna say that it skyrocketed the rate of divorce? Because of course it did. Because not being forced to marry a dude is not, like... the woman would rather raise a kid alone than be stuck with this horrific asshole? How dare she? Wow, dude.
We, as a culture, began to forget what fathers were for.
What?
Which explains why Married with Children, Homer Simpson, and Tim the Toolman Taylor made Dad into a clown.
That was the problem with Tim the Toolman Taylor, because it made Dad a clown. Dads aren't allowed to be fun or be people. Having options, being more than one type of person. So is this guy going to describe to us what being a father actually is? Yeah, he's mad about Homer Simpson. And yeah, Balor makes a good point. All the dads he listed were devoted husbands and dads. Why is Red Foreman from that 70s show played the way he is and directed the way he is? I wonder.
And Tim the Toolman Taylor made Dad into a clown. So arriving at the end of the century, the greatest generation of men had broken bodies, baby boomer men had warped minds.
Wait. Why were they the greatest generation of men? If you're going to say that this group of people that went to war in World War I and World War II were the greatest generation, but put on a pedestal everything before the Industrial Revolution, then those men would not be the greatest men historically. The greatest men historically would be the ones that you alluded to at the beginning that you didn't actually tell us anything about or share, other than that they were in close proximity to their sons, murderously close proximity. That was the fucking... Bro, get your fucking shit straight.
And the last phase of the war on masculinity began, waged against Generation X and millennials through politics, which is a war on men's hearts. A political commentator once said, politics is downstream from culture. So after decades of cultural war against masculinity, our politics shifted too. The 1990s started the process with Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky, and the increasing prevalence of sex scandals, and also the Clarence Thomas affair,
I'm sorry, you mean men in power being sexual deviants and abusing their power is a war on men's hearts, not just men and women standing up against abusive individuals in power? Are you serious? Is this guy fucking kidding? Solar says how he represents the divorce rate for women as being an issue of men not having wives is an excellent example of how narrow-minded this guy's understanding is, intentionally or not. Yeah, you fair. Because Bill Clinton is the first president to have an affair. JFK who? When I mean pool, I mean bathtub, and when I say swim, I mean sex. He's just gonna breeze over that. Was it Richard Nixon? No, not Nixon. What's the other one? Reagan. He's just gonna skip over that Ronald Reagan used to host drag shows in the White House. He's just gonna ignore that little factoid. Okay.
Precursor to Brett Kavanaugh, and in the past 2 decades we've seen the introduction to the phrase toxic masculinity. Hannah Rosin's Atlantic article, The End of...
I wish the loading would stop being a problem. If anything, shouldn't he be happy that culture punished men for being unfaithful to their wives? Or that culture was getting rid of those already broken and damaged
which
men?
Which became a best-selling book. The destruction of movie heroes like Luke Skywalker and Thor. Princess Meghan taking the driver's seat over Prince Harry. The hashtag #MeToo movement. And finally, transgenderism, the promotion...
The driving seat of what? What's she driving? Thor was the greatest fuck you. And to be fair, I actually haven't seen that movie, so... I've enjoyed Thor throughout the series, and it tends to be actually a more positive view on what men should be like. Aragorn, also from Lord of the Rings, fantastic character for showing the solidarity between men and how, like, an emotionally mature adult man would behave within his relationships, whether they be with comrades, people below them, people equal to them in like in a caste or hierarchy system, as well as to other genders and people of other races. So is he not going to talk about Elizabeth II, who was the driver's seat for the United Kingdom for 50 years? No, he's also not going to talk about Princess Diana either. Why would he talk about that? And was it Luke Skywalker? Luke Skywalker was unstable in his movies. It's not a fucking destruction of... Tony Stark, Captain America, T'Challa, like there are like the Marvel movie and Disney movie franchises still have generally strong showing men, and I would like to point out that there has been a little bit of a consistent storytelling trope in recent history with a revival of series like Indiana Jones, as well as the Star Wars movies, is you see breakdown of these characters who were tropes at the time when they came out. Like Luke Skywalker is the standard hero's journey hero. Indiana Jones is a flagrant grave robber, adventure bro who sleeps around all of the time. And I saw people complaining that these characters have broken down and not good interpersonal relationships or have very good like solid homes. And it's like, yeah, no shit. They're not exactly the type that'd be like complaining that Rambo hasn't settled in nicely into suburbia. Yeah, of course they're not. They don't have the character traits that are good for that kind of living situation. So of course you are now watching them struggle through being older and trying to settle down and finding out that they don't fit in. And guess what? That's how a lot of men seem to feel who grew up with these movies. They're having trouble fitting in and deciding where they exist in society. And that's a struggle that everybody goes through. And some more than others. It's not a competition. Everybody struggles through deciding where they kind of fit in society, and you carve out your little place where you're allowed to exist and you're welcome to exist. And some places are going to be more welcoming to you than others, and some places are going to suit you more than others. So it makes sense to see breakdowns of these characters. But you notice how he left out Maverick. The Maverick movie, the Top Gun movie, has the exact same kind of problems with that character. However, that's not the issues at play in that movie. Yeah, Rambo was bad because he wasn't a dad or something like that. Yeah, okay. Why doesn't he bring up Terminator 2 then? That was literally Robot Dad. Terminator 2 was great. He was even an interesting, although flawed, interesting and valuable father figure. And that wasn't even the only fucking movie that had Arnold Schwarzenegger as a dad. There was Jingle All the Way, where he's the Christmas dad. He's like, put that cookie down, where he's trying to go get Turbo Man for his son, and he's kind of an absentee father, and he learns a lesson over the course of the movie. There was oh god, Santa with Muscle, and that was Hulk Hogan. That happened. There's like, yeah, flawed dads in stories are a thing. Like they've always been a thing. There was the Last Action Hero, which had Arnold Schwarzenegger as an action hero coming to like Los Angeles and running around with a kid. Like that. Why are you mad? Bruce Willis in Die Hard is a failing marriage coming together after he saves the day. He gets to fix his marriage. Like that's what Die Hard was. Pregnant Schwarzenegger and Jr. Yep. All right, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, Kratos in video games exists, and he's dad and boy now. You want to talk about like one of the stories that hasn't taken the trope and turned the character into like having a bad and horrid relationships and personal life in their later years? Kratos, although his relationship with his son is strained, because he is struggling with his past and his present. God of War actually does a fantastic job of having like an action hero, violent individual coming to terms with that and then growing and living their life after the fact. So, son and boy. I digress. You could go on and talk. We could talk about this forever. So I'll keep going.
Luke Skywalker and Thor, Princess Meghan taking the driver's seat over Prince Harry, the hashtag #MeToo movement, and finally transgenderism, the promotion of gender confusion, and more.
What do you mean the promotion of gender confusion? Transgender people aren't confused. Some of them suffer from dysphoria, but transitioning is something that you do over a long period of time, and it takes a lot of work to make that kind of decisions. But by the time they've made the decision to do the trans thing, they're not really exactly confused anymore, are they? It's you that's confused. This is projection. This is a you problem. You're confused about them living their life the way they want to live their life. And so, And yeah, there's plenty of fathers in media. Yeah, keeping in mind that Luke Skywalker, not a dad. Keeping in mind Indiana Jones, I guess became a dad. But the Mandalorian has a stepdad. Yeah, The Last of Us is a dad. Kratos, dad. There's lots of dad characters in media that are good, and there are a lot that are bad as well. Like, sitcoms were forever. Like, there were so many sitcoms that were families. Bill Engvall even had his own fucking sitcom. Like, are you serious? Breaking Bad was about a dad and a husband struggling and then making meth. Like, what do you want, dude? No, we all should only ever watch Leave It to Beaver. That's the only thing any of us should be allowed to watch literally ever. What about Back to the Future? Back to the Future, although the main, like one of the main characters is a dad, and then the son finding out about what his parents were like and what they had gone through and what happened to them, and then tries to change their life for the better so they can be better parents. Dear Lord. Welcome,
All
hello.
these phenomena are related. Feminism's attempts to elevate women at the expense of men.
By the way, trans people have existed the entire time. They've always been there. You just didn't know about them before because they weren't allowed to exist. They were always there. Sorry, I'll let you continue to blame women. Feminism was never intended to be at the expense of men. Although there are some out there that are like down with men. It's not supposed to be at the expense of men. It's toxic masculinity is bad for women and bad for men. Bad for everybody. But tell me more about how you're going to go after this feminism trope rather than actually attacking feminism, which is about equity and equality.
Men played a role, but the assault on men is much more complicated. Men and boys are failing today because our culture shames them at every turn and has been building to this for a century. First, the war on masculinity broke the bodies of men from the greatest generation. Then it sold babies.
He's literally saying that people went to war in World War I and World War II as an attack on men. Like, as if there was some kind of background plot to World War I and World War II that wasn't about the horrific things that were happening to Jewish people, disabled people, and anybody who was, like, anywhere on the spectrum and who wasn't, like, white and blonde and blue-eyed. As if that's not the reason why World War II happened. It wasn't the moral atrocities that were being executed. It was to bring men in America down. Fucking what? What?
Baby boomer men pleasure instead of honor in a family. And finally, it called
can have
Gen
both.
X and millennial men toxic and said women, their sole partners on earth, no longer needed them.
We didn't need you in the first place. If you want to be real about this, you want to be real about this. It's not about need. A good positive, healthy relationship isn't about needing one another. It's about wanting one another and wanting to do good by the other person. That's what a healthy relationship is about. If your relationship is about you needing this other person to do things for you, then your relationship is selfish on its face. It's about you and what you want, and it's not about the other person. If you want the other person around you, then you're going to start having a far more healthy relationship, because now it's because you want them around, not because you need them to do things for you or to fulfill something specific. There's the difference.
This broke men's hearts. If you can break men's hearts,
whatever.
you can get men to kill themselves rather than killing them. You can get boys to cut off the thing that makes them...
Women are at fault for men's suicides because women have jobs. Women are the result. It's all women's fault. Women did the thing, of course. Of course. Of course. It's definitely not men being toxic to other men. It's definitely not men shitting on men for having feelings. It's definitely not people like this guy saying that because men came back from the war with PTSD, they were no longer valuable and they weren't real men anymore. They're actually just broken leftovers of the war, which is what this dude has been saying. It's not him. He's not the one causing suicides here. He's not the one harming men. It's women for daring to exist. Of course. Fucking of course.
a man before they can become one. You can get...
Is a dick what makes you a man? Is that what this guy thinks? So if this dude got castrated, he would just no longer be a dude? If there was some kind of horrific accident and this guy lost his dick, would he just no longer be a man then? That's just everything he just said was disgusting. I'm not even going to replay it.
Men to boast and swagger like they're invincible so they don't have to show emotion over any of it. And you can make manhood seem so...
That's a man thing. That's a thing that men do to other men. Yes, there are women that are part of this system, but this is a man thing. This is men showing off for other men. What the fuck are you talking about?
Terrifying and shameful, a boy will stay in his parents' basement forever. This is the war on masculinity. It's been waged for...
Yes, that's what women want. Women and feminism was just about keeping men in their parents' basements.
150 years. Men today are casualties of war. That is why everything is wrong. But something is being done about it.
Agamotto, oh my god, you are so welcome. Thank you for joining us. Da la la la. It's okay, this guy, now after setting up and imagining the problem into what he believes it to be, into packaging it into this little straw man box that he made up, he's now going to light it on fire.
I'd like to introduce you to the Renaissance of Men, which is the title of my podcast and more. The Renaissance of Men is a world...
The title of his podcast and docuseries that he's asking $100,000 for, by the way. And in his GoFundMe, he said that the war on men had been going on, or the revolution, had been going on for 40 years. So, we'll see.
...worldwide process to redeem masculinity to meet the demands of our declining world. I didn't start it. I just observed it and gave it a name. Because you might be surprised to learn the Renaissance of Men started 40 years ago. Since then, it's progressed in stages as men have tried to address the challenges of masculinity using different tools, each stage learning something along the way. We begin in the...
I do want to thank you very much, Honest Red, for gifting a 1-tier sub, and congratulations to Vagary. Enjoy your emotes and everything else that you're going to get access to.
1980s. 40 years ago, authors like Robert Bly...
Wow, damn, I actually did the math right. I was like, he's saying the 80s. He's saying for like the Renaissance of Men has started since the 80s, you know, when all those rock stars were around that he was complaining about. Robert Bly. He's referenced Robert Bly twice now. Should we look up Robert Bly? Shall we? Robert Bly. All right. What do we got for his Wikipedia here? Let me grab my chair. Let's so I'm not hunched over like this the whole time. While we read this, let's learn a little bit about Robert Bly, since this guy seems to think he's very important and seems to be referencing him. So let's see where he's getting this idea from. December of 1926 to November of 2021, an American poet, essayist, activist, and leader of the mythopoetic men's movement. His best-known prose book is Iron John, a book about men, from 1990, which spent 62 weeks on the New York Best Time Seller list. That would be impressive if I thought the New York Best Time Seller list was impressive. And it is a key text of the mythopoetic men's movement. He won the 1968 National Book Award for Poetry for his book Light Around the Body. Early life and education, he's from Norwegian ancestry and was born in Minnesota. I'm gonna skip most of his, he studied in Iowa, yada yada yada. Personal life, lived on a farm. He married in 1955. He had 4 children. Carol, his wife, was also a writer. They divorced in 1979. Their daughter is a professor at Fordham University and is an author of romance novels under the pseudonym Eloisa James. Okay, hold on. I need to look this up. What books? She's a tenured Shakespearean professor. Regency and Georgian romance novels under her pen name. Her novels are published in 30 countries and have sold approximately 7 million copies. Damn, congratulations, girl. I respect it. I don't have the balls to write romance. In 1980, he remarried to a lady named Ruth and became a stepdad. Died in 2021, so very recently, at 94. Collection of poems, yada yada. Wrong Turning in American Poetry, an essay which he argued the vast majority of American poetry from 1917 to 1963 lacked in soul and inwardness as a result of a focus on impersonality and objectifyingly intellectual views of the world. Okay. Co-founded American Writers Against the Vietnam War. So the guy he's quoting would have been one of the people protesting the war and pulling apart families that this dude was complaining about, interestingly enough. During his 60s, he was aided by Bengali poets who faced anti-establishment trials in India. I mean, the guy seems kind of cool. His most famous work, Iron John, a book about men, blah, blah, blah. Frequently conducted workshops, awards and legacy, translations. Thoughts in the men's movement. Here we go. Much of Bly's prose writing focused on... Is this big enough for you guys? You want me to make this bigger? Zoom this in just a little bit. There we go. There we go. Thoughts and the men's movement. There we go. Much of Bly's prose writing focused on what he saw as the particularly troubled situation in which many males find themselves today. He understood this to be a result, among other things, the decline of traditional fathering, which left young boys unguided through the stages of life and leading to maturity. He claimed that in contrast with women who are better informed by their bodies, notably by the beginning and end of their menstrual cycle, men needed to be actively guided out of boyhood and into manhood by the elders. So women just know that they're adults and women because they start bleeding, because that's a thing that makes a woman, and that's a thing that makes you an adult, right? As soon as you get your first period, you're good to go. Yikes. Oh, we're gonna talk about how young you start bleeding at as a woman. Okay. Pre-modern cultures had elaborate myths often enacted as rites of passage. People currently have rites of passage, by the way, into becoming an adult. Whether it be like you go out with your dad for your first drink, or whoever your parental figures are, or guardians might be. It doesn't have to be your dad, but you go out for your first drink. You go learn how to drive. That's a whole thing. You get your driver's license. That's considered a rite of passage. You go vote. Some people do that as their rite of passage. Some people go on a camping trip and they'll take their kids fishing or hunting. That's a thing that happens. There are plenty of current traditions that exist that are a little bit more modern, and some people will do like archery, or they'll go horseback riding. Depends on where you live and what you're doing. Some people will go snowboarding if you're go on a snowboarding trip or an ice fishing trip. These are things that exist. So to try and pretend that rites of passage do not currently exist in society is absolutely absurd. Your first job, a lot of times, is considered a little bit of a rite of passage. You have your own money now. You get opening a bank account sometimes as well. All right. Anyway, pre-modern culture has elaborate myths, often enacted as rites of passage, as well as men's societies, where older men would teach young boys about these gender-specific issues. We do not need to go into old school men's societies. They are ripe with predatory practices and predatory problems. Maybe we can talk about them a little bit another day. We'll go a little bit more of a historical dive. But I feel like somebody who is not me, who has more history in their background, would be a better individual to cover something like this. So maybe I can find somebody to come on and we can talk about this. As modern fathers have become increasingly absent, this knowledge is no longer being passed down the generations. Oh no! Less generational abuse and generational trauma, the horror, resulting in what he referred to as a sibling society. The absence of the father is a recurrent theme in Blythe's work, and according to him, many of the phenomena of depression, juvenile delinquency, and lack of leadership in business and politics are linked to it. Men still dominate these fields. Blythe therefore saw today's men as half-adults. Oh, so he was a condescending prick. Cool. Trapped between boyhood and maturity, in a state where they find it hard to become responsible in their work as well as leaders in their communities. Responsible in their work? You mean being overworked for little pay in an economic crisis? Eventually, they might become weak or absent fathers themselves, which will cause this behavior to be passed down to their children. Yeah, because that's a trope in media and in life. Having a missing dad makes you want to become a missing dad, right? You having a shitty father makes you want to be a shitty father when you grow up. In this book, The Sibling Society, in 1997, he is complaining about this shit in the 90s. Blythe argues that a society formed of such men is inherently problematic as it lacks creativity and a deep sense of empathy. Why? Apparently, I need to read this book. I'm gonna add this book to my add that book to my Amazon wish list. The image of half-adults is further reinforced by popular culture, which often portrays fathers as naive, overweight, and almost always emotionally codependent. Men are set up for failure in the emotional maturity in general. Historically, this represents a recent shift from a traditional patriarchal model. Oh no, not moving away from a traditional patriarchal model. Why would we want that? And Blythe believes that women rushed to fill the gap that was formed through various youth movements during the 60s. Hold on. This is just the counterculture of the 60s. Oh, that's funny. Enhancing men's emotional capacities and helping them to connect with women's age-old pain of repression. Imagine how terrible. Imagine wanting to empathize with women over repression. It has, however, also led to the creation of soft males who lack the outwardly direct strength to revitalize the community with assertiveness and a certain warrior strength. Whatever that shit means. In Blythe's view, a potential solution lay in the rediscovery of the meanings hidden in traditional myths and fairy tales, as well as works of poetry. You know, poetry. The most masculine of activities. Traditionally speaking, of course. Oh no. Because of course his chosen thing is, his chosen career and work is considered masculine. Because why wouldn't it be? He researched and collected myths that concern male maturity, often originating from the Grimm's fairy tales, and published them in various books, Iron John being the best known example. In contrast to the continual pursuit of higher achievements that is consistently taught to young men today, the theme of spiritual descent, often being referred to by its Greek term, kakabibaios, I don't know how to pronounce that, which is, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be making fun of the Greek language, I don't know enough about it to even pretend that I know how to read that, which is to be found in many of these myths, is presented as a necessary step for coming in contact with the deeper aspects of the masculine self to achieve its full potential. Do I really need to talk about Native Americans and their traditions? And they would have had traditions for reaching adulthood that just got absolutely decimated by the Americas. Oh wait, no, that time frame didn't exist according to this guy. Sorry, my mistake. My bad. This is often presented as hero, often during the middle of his quest, going through underground to pass a period of solitude and sorrow in semi-bestial mode. He's gone beast mode! Bly's pro-goblin mode! Bly is pro video gaming, where you go sicko mode, and beast mode, and goblin mode. Bly noticed a cultural space existed in most traditional societies for such a period in a man's life, in the absence of which many men today go into a depression and alcoholism as they subconsciously try to emulate this innate ritual. You know, you could just, like, go away for a weekend and go hunting or something. You could go on a trip to, like, go hiking through a park and go backpacking or something. You don't have to, like, you could just do this. Literally no one is stopping you from doing these things. Yeesh. Blythe was influenced by a Swiss psychiatrist, Carl Jung, who developed the theory of archetypes. Oh god, we've gone full Jordan Peterson. Shit. The discrete structures of the psyche which emerge as images in dreams, myths, and art. The powerful king, the evil witch, the beautiful maiden are, according to Jung, some of the imprints of a collective unconsciousness, and Blythe wrote extensively about their... But believe it or not, this guy who was a poet was weird, and had some weird fucking ideas. Woo! Okay. As an example, in accordance with Jung, he considered the witch to be part of the male psyche upon which the negative and destructive side of a woman is imprinted, and which first developed during infancy to store the imperfections of one's own mother. All the problems that exist for men are just because of women. I'm gonna go out on the limb here, and just to be clear, we are pro-witch here, and, go girl. As a consequence, the witch's symbols are essentially inverted motherly symbols, where the loving act of cooking is transformed into brewing evil potions, and knitting clothes takes the form of spiders' webs. The feeding process is also reversed, with the child now in danger of being eaten to feed the body of a witch, rather than being fed by the mother's own body. Symbolism! In that respect, the witch is a mark of arrested development on the part of... Does this go to the show? No, specific to the psychological. Okay, on the part of the man as it guards against feminine realities that his psyche is not yet able to incorporate fully. Fairy tales, according to this interpretation, mostly described internal battles played out externally, where the hero saves his future bride by killing a witch, as in The Drummer, Grimm Tale number 193. This particular concept is explained in Bly's 1989 talk, The Human Shadow, and the book it presented. Well, a big-lipped alligator moment. So let's see. Mythopoeic men's movement. The mythopoetic men's movement was a body of self-help advice and therapeutic workshops and retreats for men undertaken by various organizations and authors in the United States from the early 80s through the 90s. So this would be the 40 years that the guy is referring to in his video. The term mythopoetic was coined by Professor Shepard Bliss in reference to the term New Age men's movement, coined by J.R.R. Tolkien in the 30s and has a different meaning. Mythopoets adopted a general style of psychological self-help because, you know, if you're having psychological issues and mental instability and emotional instability problems, you should look into self-help instead of professionals. Inspired by the works of Robert Bly, Robert A. Johnson, Joseph Campbell, and other Jungian authors, it all comes down to Jung. The group activities used in the movement were largely influenced by ideas derived from Swiss psychiatrist Carl. Thanks, Carl! Known as Jungian psychology, or the Jungian archetypes, from which the use of myths and fairy tales is taken from various cultures, served as a way to interpret challenges facing men in society. This sounds like it's LARPing. Like, does this not sound like LARPing to you? Does this, like, we need to play out these roles? Like, we need to embody these caricatures of society. What, Carl? That effeminizes boys. How did I find this? I have gone down a rabbit hole. Groups formed during the mythopoetic men's movement typically avoided political and social advocacy in favor of therapeutic workshops and wilderness retreats, often using Native American rituals such as drumming, chanting, and sweat lodges. Oh, so they co-opted traditions so cultural appropriation from Native Americans. Good. Great. Did you know that Native Americans had long hair often? Like that often depicted as long hair? No? We're gonna... White people are the worst. God fucking damn it. These rituals were done with the aim of personal growth of participants and intended purposes of connecting spiritually with a lost, deep masculine identity or inner self. The fact that this has been bastardized by this dude to be a fucking Christian movement is goddamn disgusting. The most well-known text of the movement was Iron John, a book about adult men by the poet Robert Bly, who argued that male energy had been diluted through modern societal institutions such as the feminist movement, industrialization, and the separation of fathers from family life through working outside of the home. Hey, that's all the things this guy said. Yay! Bly urged men to recover a pre-industrial conception of masculinity through spiritual camaraderie with other men in male-only gatherings. Sounds kind of gay, dude. The purpose of these activities was to foster greater understanding of the force... Oh man, we gotta go to this super male gathering, and we gotta urge men to recover this concept of masculinity and the male energy. I'm sorry, stop. I can't. Oh, yeah, we're going into J.O. Crystal territory. Yes. Oh, no. The purpose of these activities was to foster a greater understanding of the forces influencing the roles of men in modern society and how these changes affect behavior, self-awareness, and identity. Alright, let's continue, shall we? Now that we're done that rabbit hole and we're halfway through this guy's video, let's jump back right into it. Alright, Tim Taylor. No, he brought up Tim the Tool Man Taylor as a bad dad. Damn. This show, the Home Improvement show had 3 sons as well. It was 1 mom, a dad, and 3 sons in that show. If I remember correctly, Jonathan Taylor Thomas was in that show. God damn. Alright.
Douglas Gillette and others observed the beginnings of men's decline and decided that men needed a return to wildness. So they led men into the forest to build bonds of brotherhood through rites of passage.
Did they literally do that? Oh wait, isn't that Blythe? Okay, Blythe? Okay, maybe he did.
In the show A Gathering of Men, which premiered in 1990, the renowned journalist Bill Moyers interviewed Robert Bly about his ideas.
Oh, there he is.
All I know of the troubadours, I bring to this bed.
The VHS tape shipped through
Why would you...
the mail became a national bestseller. Meanwhile, Dr. Warren Farrell, a former leading feminist, wrote best-selling books entitled Why Men Are the Way They Are and The Myth of Male Power. He appeared on Oprah and in publications worldwide. And the Christian men's organization, the Promise Keepers, filled stadiums and held a rally in Washington, D.C. that attracted 800,000 men. Before the internet,
all these men have gathered to talk about masculinity and male energy. Sorry. Oh man, I kind of missed the guys we were watching before. They were telling us about their gay porn pitch.
men and women were thirsting for a revival of masculinity.
Thirsting!
Then the New York Times said Robert Bly was promoting narcissism. Men's initiations were ridiculed as naked drumming in the forest, and the Promise Keepers were accused of sexism.
You are not allowed to be mad at that with the amount that you dudes get angry about women dancing in the forest naked. You're not allowed to complain that you got ridiculed for it after women have been getting ridiculed for it for decades and eons and forever. If you want to be allowed to dance naked in the forest by yourselves or with a group of other dudes, then you gotta let women dance in the forest naked with each other, because they're gonna do it anyway. We're pro-witch here.
Racism and more. So the book
wow,
stopped
go
selling.
figure.
The forests fell silent, and the stadiums emptied.
Oh no, the white Christian men got kicked out of the woods. Good! Between you fucking abusing Native American traditions and trying to co-opt them for your weird fucking sex fantasies about what men ought to be in your white Christian worldview, and you got found out for being fucking racist, which sounds like that kind of connects. That seems about right. And people weren't interested, and now you're mad? Sorry, capitalism fucked you over, I guess.
The first wave was over, but a beachhead had been established. Then,
Ew.
in the late 1990s, men in Los Angeles gathered in bars and nightclubs attempting an experiment. They wanted to see if there was more to getting laid than getting lucky.
Were they, like, taking notes together? Was this like a group?
They were led by Eric von Markovic, aka Mystery. He had conversations.
Okay, Eric von Markovic, aka Mystery. Oh, God. Eric Von Mark. Okay. Is this guy? Yeah, that's that guy. That works. Born in September 1971, stage name Mystery, is a Canadian pickup artist and television personality. The Game, and his appearance on VH1, it's the pickup artist. He is the pickup artist. God, I remember this. Jesus Christ. Created by Eric von Markovic in the late 90s for his performances as a mentalist titled Natural Magic. He has done magic performances in places including Toronto, Las Vegas, and Hollywood. The name Mystery was also included by von Markovic as an internet username. Yep, there's not a whole lot about him, but yeah. Yeah, I remember the show The Pickup Artist. Let's continue.
Techniques he called game that were successful at generating one-night stands, and thousands of young men from divorced families and deprived of fathers followed Mystery into the clubs.
Do not pretend that there were not married men that did this. There are absolutely married men that do this shit.
Chasing validation from women through sex. This wave spawned best-selling books, including The Game by the Rolling Stone journalist and Mystery disciple Neil Strauss, who even tried game on Jessica Alba on a late-night talk show. And Mystery had his own reality TV show on VH1 as well. But behind the scenes, these men were a mess. They had trouble forming long-term relationships and holding down jobs.
Could it be because they were misogynistic assholes? No, it must be the women's fault.
Robert Bly's wildness wasn't the answer, and neither was Mystery's promise of casual sex. But men had advanced from the beachhead into culture. The next wave asked if we can have success.
Yes, that's proto-Tate. Yeah, yes, correct. The pickup artist was like one of the main initiations of widespread, like, club, mgtow, clubby, like, yeah. Yuck. Go!
Success with women by pretending to be high-value men. What if we became
high-value men?
And with the invention of social media, men gathered online to do just that. On
they?
Sites like Reddit, men challenge each other to improve their fitness and personal finances, upgrading their romantic options without playing games. And as men rediscovered their capacity for brotherhood and transformation, they began wondering, is masculinity really toxic? Could men even be good?
No! God, no! Toxic masculinity isn't masculinity is toxic. Those are different words. Those mean different things. Toxic masculinity is expressly talking about toxic parts of masculine traits and masculinity being abused. That's what toxic masculinity is. Toxic masculinity is not saying that masculinity is toxic. If it were saying that, the phrasing wouldn't be what it is. Dumb shit.
Jack Donovan in his classic The Way of Men said yes.
Cherry Coke doesn't mean Coke is cherry. Yes.
Rollo Tomasi's cult hit
You
The
called it,
Rational
Vagary.
Male explained why men believed otherwise, and YouTube channels, blogs, and content creators proliferated to help
How dare you use anything but dark mode, you monster.
men down the path. Robert Bly's wildness didn't work, but he demonstrated that men needed each other. Mystery's hedonism didn't work, but he demonstrated that motivated men can take control of their lives. With these data points and the internet, men began to
I thought you said that the lifestyle wasn't good for either of them, so how did they demonstrate either of these things?
transform themselves in remarkable ways. This also benefited men trampled by divorce. They rallied around leaders like Paul Elam, featured in the hit documentary The Red Pill, who gave men a sense of belonging in their isolation. Something big was taking shape, but a piece was
The Red
missing.
Pill.
Fatherhood. A man can have a great body and checking account and all the dates he can handle, but he can stay immature forever without a family to grow him up.
No! No, wrong. Grow up before starting a family. Do not use your kid and abuse your kid as a way to better yourself. Wrong. 100% wrong. This is backwards as fuck, my dude. I am not letting that one pass. No fucking way. You learn how to be an adult through growing the fuck up. You don't get to, it's not your wife's job to be your mom, it's not your girlfriend's job to teach you how to be a man, and it's not your kid's job to make you mature. That's all on you. You need to do that, just like women need to do that, just like everybody else needs to do that. Grow the fuck up. Grow up. And I understand that is hard, and that can be difficult, and growing up is hard, and when you don't have anybody to tell you what to do, you gotta figure it out. And even if you do have somebody telling you what to do, you still gotta figure it out for yourself. So, no, absolutely fucking not. Fuck off. Do not put that responsibility onto a fucking child.
And as the curtain of COVID descended, another wave rediscovered the blessings of family, home, and sovereignty. Ryan Micklef from the Order of Man amassed a gigantic following with one of the top podcasts in the world. Strong.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna have to go find that guy. Put a note in that name, you guys, if you guys don't mind. Like remind me about that later. Maybe we can look into that another day.
Man and father of 4, Elliot Hulse, attracted millions of subscribers on YouTube. Tanner Guzzi promoted intentional fathering in a groundbreaking TEDx talk. Pete Roberts partnered with former Navy SEAL Jocko Willink to bring manufacturing back to rural America. And gym owner Ian Smith showed America what it meant to stand.
I'm sorry, is manufacturing inherent to being a man and a good father? The fuck does manufacturing have to do this? I thought you were against the Industrial Revolution and against industry pulling men out of the family home. Why the fuck would you be promoting that shit? It's almost like you didn't think about any of this and don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Stand up to tyranny.
And my partner and I are not willing to back down. We're not going to have
our
lives
it's
destroyed
Fox
over
News.
a political agenda that has nothing to do with us.
After 40 years, the Renaissance was making an impact, and not a moment too soon. But there was one last step to take: faith. Inspired by the massive success of Dr. George.
No! Shit! Oh, no! Oh, man! I'm not surprised. I called it earlier when they were talking about the archetypes. I mentioned it earlier. I fucking got inspired by the massive success of Jordan Peterson. Fuck off. If this ends up on YouTube, I'll put a link in the description below of a very short video about Jordan Peterson. Don't look at the timestamp. It kind of illustrates his history, kind of where he came from, where he went, and it kind of just analyzes it from a neutral standpoint. Although it doesn't go well for him, because of course taking a neutral look and an unbiased look at this man turns out he's a fucking jackass. Doesn't know what he's talking about, and built his entire career off of a lie about Bill C-16. But, I wonder how that investigation into his license is going, because he might not be a doctor for much longer if he loses his fucking license.
Jordan Peterson, Bishop Robert Barron, and Pastor Doug Wilson, among others, men began to rediscover Christianity, the faith of their fathers. In doing
Bitch, Christianity in America hasn't gone anywhere. Shut up.
so, they grasped the meaning of fatherhood, family, and love.
Which is what?
Because at last, there was room for women.
Huh? What? You leave me out of this. What do you mean there was room for women? Fuck you, dude. You've been bitching about us this entire time.
Previous stages of the Renaissance were reactionary. They ignored women, as Robert Bly did, treated women as conquests like Mystery did, or blamed women for everything like men on Reddit did.
Like you're doing at the beginning of this video.
But men of faith recognized that without women, it's pointless. Not because men need women to produce a family, but because men and women need each other. And besides, life is better together. So, the war on masculinity got us here. The Renaissance of men was the response, but the Great Reconciliation is our destination.
Okay. I'm gonna give us a quick break before we dive into part 3. So I'll be back in like a couple minutes. Go get a snack. I'm fucking Christ. I'm gonna go get some lemon water or something like that. He's crushing together a bunch of unrelated and in many examples contradictory ideas and movements. Also, as a man myself, There is nothing less manly and more pathetic than a man who spends all of his time obsessed with how he can prove he's manly to others. Every new paragraph he starts, I think, wait, what does that have to do with the last thing you said? Well, men can't wear makeup. Hi, welcome back. I have accidentally banana peel slipped my way into incel mgtow territory. Whoopsie! This is not something I actually cover very often, so this is kind of fun. Men have worn makeup for 1,000 years. Kings wore makeup. Makeup has nothing to do with whether or not you're more or less masculine. Just like how, I live in a house with 3 people, right? All of them have dicks. I am the one who does the majority of the cooking, the majority of the cleaning, dishes, laundry. I don't do other people's laundry. I do my own laundry. But, like, I'll do, like, the towels in the house or whatever. So I'll do, like, communal laundry. Stuff like that. But also, I also do a lot of the yard work. Does that make me more or less feminine? The answer is, it doesn't do any of those things. Neither. It just means that there are things around the house that need to get done. And I'm just the one who happens to do them, because that's just what tends to work out the best. It means that Chesh has the biggest dick. Biggest dickus. Basically mini-me. Balancing on my peepee dick. Alright, hit play. The Great Reconciliation. Why do I get the feeling this is gonna be like Get Back in the Kitchen? I'm voting on Get Back in the Kitchen.
Fathers need mothers. Wives need husbands. Children need parents. We all need each other.
It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve!
But most importantly, our sons need an image of something positive to become, a noble goal to strive for, to give their lives purpose and direction.
Give me an they haven't even described what constitutes what fatherhood is and what it constitutes. What is positive masculinity? What are positive things that men should be doing? All this has been doing is bitching and blaming women for everything, and then, like, this is, like, conspiracy level of bullshit.
Because nothing calls a boy to adventure like the love and admiration of a woman, and nothing...
Bitch! Are you fucking kidding me? The love and admiration of... Yeah, that's why kids play cops and robbers and why they search for treasure. It's not adventure for the sake of adventure or the sake of a reward at the end of the day. It's women will like me more if I'm a pirate. Are you fucking serious? Men went to sail the 7 seas because they wanted to be loved by women who were not allowed on the 7 seas. Oh no. Oh, hey, just because women weren't allowed on the 7 seas does not mean that they did not go. It was a common, what's the word I'm looking for here? Trope? What's the word? Women were more likely to be allotted onto pirate ships than they were as part of, like, military ships, as well as, like, merchant vessels, not as much as well, although not nearly as, like, against the rules as military, but part of that also had to do with a lot more with, like, military practices of the time period. But there's, like, long-standing superstition, that's the word I was looking for, superstition about women being on ships and Stuff like that.
And grows a man into a hero, like the gifts of fatherhood, brotherhood, and faith. At the start of this video, I asked,
What makes a hero?
what is wrong with men? The real answer is that 150 years ago, we took from men the image of the only thing they ever wanted. Then they lost the memory that they ever had it. What if we brought
That's the only thing men want. To settle down with a family. And be a dad.
that image back? Might we get our men back? Might we get our boys back? If you're
Listen, men and boys being more accepting of other people's existence and leaving them the fuck alone and not being abusive dickbags is good. I don't want abusive men back. Thank you. I'm quite happy with the direction that we're going in, that has less boys being abused and less men being abused. I'm all for less abuse. Thank you. Fuck off.
You're wondering why this matters, here's why. This was me in 2012. I was 50 pounds heavier, in a dead-end relationship, going nowhere fast with Peter
Why was your relationship at a dead end? Why did you have a dead-end relationship?
Pan dreams. Then I discovered Robert Bly and set out on an epic journey. I transformed my life because I discovered brotherhood, adventure, faith, and a reason to live, not just be alive. I discovered the Renaissance of men happening all around us for decades. This discovery changed my life, and I believe it can change the lives of men around the world.
You mean you got out of the house and did some self-reflection and did good for yourself? I mean, good for you, but don't blame other people because your life was shitty before you did this. That's a you thing. This is a you problem.
Which is why in summer 2021, I set off on a cross-country road trip to produce a documentary series about the Renaissance of men. I traveled for 110 days from California to Maine and back, driving 14,000 miles.
Between California and Maine. And, between those two places, you found all of masculinity? You know there are other countries. You know, when I saw that you said you had traveled that far, I kind of assumed you probably might have gone out of America. What a silly thing. Why would I think something like that? What was I thinking? Give this dude the benefit of the doubt that he'd, seen what masculinity was like in other countries. America is the world affair. Oh my god, oh no.
I conducted 25 interviews with major leaders of the Renaissance.
A whole 25 interviews.
Like Ryan Mickler, Jack Donovan, Pete Roberts, Allison Armstrong, Rollo Tomasi, Elliot Hulse, Ian Smith, and many more. They let me into their homes, their families, and even their gyms. I filmed 60 hours of 4K.
They let me into their wives. Sorry.
Footage, including never-before-seen interviews, B-roll, drone photography, and more. We laughed and cried together. Once I saw that war was being waged on masculinity, I decided it was time for a counteroffensive. Not because anyone asked me to, but because for decades, men have allowed...
Not because anyone asked me to, I'm just an entitled white man and feel like I should... it's my responsibility to tell everybody what I think. Oh, listen, you thumb. Get out of here.
Allowed culture to be defined for us. That is done through art, which is the battlefield of culture.
No! Oh my fucking god, art does two things. It is experimental and it is a reflection. Whatever the current culture's general vibe is, it doesn't have to be what culture is currently doing. It could be the future that culture is moving towards, that is being expounded upon. It could also be looking backwards historically. Art can be any extension of any singular point in time. It doesn't have to like, it will reflect society, but it will also encourage society in different directions depending on who's viewing it and at what time period. That's why you could look at an older piece of, let's say, Renaissance art, for example, and you could use it as a window to see what people were thinking at the time and the general vibe of that time period, all through that artist's perspective, through your lens of what you view now. My fucking God, this is not how art is. Art. It also depends on what type of art you're looking at. Different types of mediums are used to tell different types of stories, right? There's a reason why what we've been looking at for the past 10 years is a lot of dystopian futurist, like if you're looking at any kind of like futuristic setting, a lot of it is very dystopian, whereas if you look back a little bit further, you saw stuff that was a little bit more optimistic, right? Older shows like The Jetsons. Then you've got shows like and like Star Trek. Just look at, actually Star Trek is a perfect example. Look at old Star Trek all the way to new Star Trek, and look at the vibe of what the future looks like. And that is an indication of the mentality and the general vibe of what society feels like at the time, and what society thinks about these general concepts and where they're going for something that would be what it would look like in the future. If you're looking at writing, depending on what you're looking at, if you're looking at like high fantasy, you're gonna see so kinds of different things. And it's like, yeah, man, I'm so fucking sick of dystopia. Right? Things change and move, and so when society starts getting fed up enough, which you're seeing with the strikes that we talked about earlier, right? The strikes that are going on, the massive layoffs, the like everything just economically going to shit. Like, people are going to get tired, and they're going to get tired enough that things are going to get overturned and overthrown. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time of people being frustrated enough before major changes happen, and it's gonna hurt, and it's gonna suck, and people are gonna suffer, and it's gonna be bad. But it will get bad enough to invoke change eventually. But look at the differences. Like, the 80s had plenty of dystopias in them as well. Snake Plissken lived in the future of New York, where Manhattan was a fucking big old prison. Like, and it was just chaos. Right? So you get different types of things, and media will portray that in different ways. And if you're talking about art and it's a battle for men, the internet has so much art, and so much of it is porn. Really. It's like this guy is trying to be very, very deep, and it's like, I'm 14. This is the subreddit, I'm 14 and this is deep.
Men have withdrawn from that
Thank you very
battlefield
much.
while building businesses and providing for their families. But the void left behind has been filled by people who despise men, women, children, and intact families. And their messages
like
have
who?
dominated TV and movies, entertainment, and politics.
He just is this the gay agenda? Does the gay people hate men? That seems pretty opposite to me. Do lesbians hate women? Guys, bad movies didn't exist until the 80s. The liberal anti-religious agenda.
I was a casualty of their war, which is why as soon as I could stand, I picked up a sword and a camera, and I need your help. The success of Top Gun Maverick and Yellowstone demonstrates the demand for masculine heroes.
The success of Brokeback Mountain demonstrates the demand for masculine heroes.
But Tom Cruise and Kevin Costner have been with us for decades. Their star power can push those projects through on their terms. Once those...
Then why are you a Christian? Why haven't you joined Scientology with Tom Cruise, you nut?
Hollywood legends are gone, who will be left? Which is why my goal is to re-inspire our vision of masculinity and fatherhood, not with fiction, but with truth. Not taking us back to the 1950s, the age of our battle-scarred grandfathers. Those men deserve our sympathy and our gratitude. But respectfully, men today
Then why are you just calling them garbage? Like, you spent half this video calling them garbage. Like, fuck off.
have tools they didn't. Accountability through brotherhood, countless books and videos, online communities, role models, and a reinvigorated church. Plus, feminism reminds us every day of men's sins of the past, but men have endured those sins too. Women are not the only victims of absent and abusive fathers.
Feminism has always talked about that. What does he think toxic masculinity is? He's agreeing. Nobody said you weren't a victim of it also. What is wrong with you?
And men of my generation are not anxious to repeat those mistakes. We are ready to try again. And
Then why are you blaming feminism and women and LGBTQ plus people for nothing? LGBTQ plus people didn't stop you from being a dad. LGBTQ plus people and women don't stop people from being good fathers or not being pieces of shit. There's not being treated like people and being allowed to vote is not a fucking agenda. Being treated equally is not a fucking agenda, you prick.
new. This isn't a revolution. A revolution goes around and around. It's not a reformation.
fuck
There's
off.
no leader dictating anything from the top down. It's a restoration.
You just said that there were 25 leaders that you fucking interviewed. Could these people, like, take 30 seconds to make sure that the shit that they're saying doesn't contradict? Like, get an editor. My guy, please. For fuck's sakes.
A remembering, a rebirth. I call it a renaissance. Through this rebirth, we will redeem masculinity for a world that desperately needs it.
This guy is trying to portray himself as a leader in this community.
Because the pendulum has swung too far to one side, and there are signs of a reaction building. We have a chance to stop the pendulum in the middle, to stop an overcorrection, and bring men, women, and children together for the future of our nation.
What's the middle look like then? What's the middle? What's the middle? You tell me. What is the middle supposed to be from what you're describing? Because apparently gay people shouldn't exist, men aren't allowed to wear makeup, trans people shouldn't exist, no drag queens, women gotta get the fuck back in the kitchen. How is that the fucking middle?
And our world. If you're concerned about the state of men today, I can help. These are my...
No, you're the type of man I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that men will look at what you have to say and hear the fancy music in the background and fucking think that you're serious and take you seriously. And your representation of history is even remotely close to anything. No, absolutely fucking not.
My answers, and they're good ones. They've changed my life. They can change your life. They can change your husband or boyfriend's life. And I believe they can even change your son's life. And maybe...
Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife.
your daughters too. But I need your help. This train has left the station. This project is not a pipe dream. It is happening.
Wrestling and judo. Let's not talk about the Mongolian princess who was like a pro at what she did and never married and won a bunch of horses and a bunch of shit because she was just able to beat everybody at what was essentially wrestling. Bees! You know, those bees. With a queen. Oh my god, it's just like... Yeah, okay. Alright. Okay. You gonna say anything else? Is this a... Why is there a woman here? Oh, sorry.
RenofMen.com if you'd like to be a part of it. And welcome to the Renaissance of Men. You are the Renaissance.
Okay. Well, you know, I did spend time... donate via Bitcoin, guys! He downloaded a 7-minute song from the free song site. He's gonna use it. He subliminally tried to put faith at every turn so Christian nationalist sounds about right. Yeah, it could be. Hey, listen, that was just his trailer for the for his YouTube channel. Come on, he's got a podcast. He does videos. Promo trailer for the docuseries. I think that might be the one we just... No, this is a 3-minute one. What does the abusive wife want? Oh. Because, you know, all women are the same. Just like how all men are the same. That's why this guy is like, yeah, if you're not the same kind of man as I am, you're doing it wrong and you're not a real man. Because all men are the same and should be the same, and that should be enforced by other men. Unironically. That's some of the most empty 20 minutes. Yeah, right? I feel like I just ate a bunch of cheesies. Just air pockets. Thoughts about the shifting winds. Coffee for the kingdom? Question mark? Hey, this one's got 69 views. We can't watch that. Like, it's perfect. It's not about the yoga pants. It's not about the yoga pants. Guys.
For this person look like?
Can I ask a semi-personal question?
Yeah.
Sort of, what's it like being on the front lines? Like, you're on the front lines we talked about in the Twitter war. Spontaneously thrust into the middle of it. But in a very real way.
Sorry, 1 second. I gotta see when this is from. The Twitter war's from a month ago. Okay. Though after Elon Musk took it over.
In pastoral ministry, you're seeing people show up in your office, you know, like triage, carrying these wounds from the world, right? And in a very specific moment. Like, this sort of, can you invite people into that moment, perhaps for you as a man, as a pastor, etc., fighting the war on both these fronts?
Yeah, they're very different. You're absolutely right.
Wait a minute! I just realized that's the guy me and Manya looked at! The guy with the beard! Well, not the red beard, the dark beard. That's the dude we watched. That's the that alpha masculinity guy. Hold on. Let me find it. This is the guy. This is not. No, hold on. Not Hold on. Wait. Fuck. This is the guy that was talking about his gay boating.
Welcome back to
His gay boating trip. Wait. This is the fucking dude. Hold on. The Hard Men Podcast. That's what it was called. It's the Hard Men Podcast guy. I swear to God. I gotta show it. There's no way it's not. Hold on. There's no way. It absolutely is that guy. Just a second. It's that guy. Look! That's him! Oh my God! It's a giant circle jerk! Oh no! We've gone full circle! Oh.
about that. I think on Twitter, to me, like, you realize you're kind of going into the den of vipers. And so there's a lot more like flame throwing, I feel like, and like
Yeah.
chucking rocks at a herd of dogs, and like then you're getting attacked by the pit bulls.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like got one feel to it. I would
Because, of course, having conversations with anybody who disagrees with you is treating them like animals, and that they're unintelligent dogs that you should take to a flamethrower to and throw rocks at. You know, cast the first stone and such, like a good Christian.
would say the thing that I love most, obviously, is pastoral ministry. I think dealing with people locally, when they join the church, when they're members, they come in for counseling, they come in for, you know, let's say marriage counseling.
Do not get marriage counseling from people like this, please. For the love of God.
They haven't been in our church usually. Like when we first do the intake, that's when you find a lot of the problems. I would say that the overwhelming feeling that I have in that situation, I think of in the gospel account where it says Jesus looked on them and he had compassion because they were helpless and harassed sheep.
You know, compassion. Like you have for those people on Twitter that you treat like dogs and you throw rocks at and take a flamethrower to. Compassion. Throwing the first stone. Right? Right?
And I would say the level of empathy, compassion, I just feel their hurts. It is so hard because I think so many people...
Guys, he's so empathetic.
that...
He's an empath, guys. He's just really empathic. He just knows how people feel.
Chair, right? We're not talking about Maxim lady at this point.
Right.
She's not this innocent flower of a victim. But we're talking about people who are coming to you and they're saying, I know you're right.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to do this. And I'm really discouraged. And I mean, it could be so many times, like, you know, we've had a lot of these lately. I mentioned like the loss of children, the miscarriage, loss of children early on. But dealing with those and dealing with the women, especially, it's just given me this deep sense of pastoral shepherding care for them. Like, you'll develop this deep love for the family.
Women are stupid sheep.
Where you start to feel like we lost that baby. And we said as pastors, I feel like I lost my child. Like, because I did. We did. We lost that as a family.
That is toxic as fuck and incredibly dangerous for somebody who's supposed to be giving, like, evaluation and counseling. You cannot be doing that shit. That is parasocial as fuck, and that is super fucked up.
But you
Where the fuck is generic minority? I need him in here. I need his professional opinion.
also get in that interior space, and you get to deal with people's fine china, and so it's something you have to be delicate with. But to be able to experience that, this is also where all the good stuff is. When people let you in, when people change, when you have the wife who's like learning how to submit and saying this is glorious and good. When you have wives who are like asking my wife, like, I don't know, how do I submit?
There's nothing like dun, 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 bullying the fuck out of women and trying to think you're a good fucking person for doing this. When people give me all the power, it's the good shit. Yikes. Oh my god. This is... Yikes.
Admit, I don't know how to do it. And then my wife is like, I'm like, well, what'd you tell them? And my wife is like, well, you know, I told her to call.
You mean you haven't told your wife what she's supposed to say in those scenarios? Because you probably should. She's supposed to be submitting to you. If we chant their name 3 times in a mirror in the dark, will that bring them in? Oh, generic? Oh, maybe.
Cultivate gratitude about her husband more frequently. And then I told her, stop complaining so much. You complain about your husband a lot. Like, stop it.
Really?
So,
Well, why? Are they legitimate complaints? Are there things that that the husband needs to fix? Because you're only talking, you were in counseling with both of them. So, did you tell the man that maybe he should stop doing annoying shit that his wife is gonna complain about? No, it only goes one way. She's just gotta put up with that, and so you told her to just shut the fuck up and put up with it? 'Cause that's healthy. That's a good relationship. Are you fucking stupid?
and that's all in the context of like, we love you, we're spending time with you, we're pouring in.
We care about you, so sit down and shut the fuck up and stop complaining about your husband who's doing things that are complaint-worthy.
Into our people. To get to watch that happen is, I don't know, it's just one of the most glorious things in life.
I get such an elation out of bullying people and putting them in their fucking place. And yeah, and like I just love when people open up to me and give me that power over them, and then I tell them what to do, and then yuck, ew, ew, eh.
To see people change, like I said, I had posted the other day on social media, there's nothing more glorious than when one sinner repents. Like we're told the host of
You mean like you two should, and you should be repenting a lot for, lying and about history and, misrepresenting things and abusing women, which is something that you're not supposed to do in the Bible, because I can already hear the abusive shit that you're talking about and putting women through. And, like, I've seen your behavior on Twitter. Making threats. I don't think that's something that... I'm pretty sure that's a sinny type thing. No. Okay.
Heaven, in Luke's gospel, the host of heaven rejoices at one sinner who repents. Yeah. And so when you kind of get to be the midwife of that delivered, infant of repentance, as it were, to stretch that metaphor, it is just a powerful thing. And so I would say this is where I think a lot of pastors are actually missing out. Like, if you're just preaching from the pulpit, if you're just the guy lobbing bombs on Twitter, if you're just the guy who has like air war ministry, that's actually, it's inverse for us, right?
Don't encourage other abusive, power-hungry people to do this additional piece of ministry. Ya nasty.
Right, where we say like, no, the church and everything local, that's actually first. What you see on Twitter, what you see through the podcast, that's an overflow of our household as a church and as pastors.
Yikes.
And the thing that we love, the thing that we find so much power in doing and encouragement from is that, in that counselor's office, getting to see somebody repent, like say modesty. When a woman is like, I was talking to one of our parishioners the other day about this. She had seen the tweet, and she said, "Yeah, actually, when we first started coming to this church, I had no clue what modesty was. I didn't realize how like immature we were." She
Which
said,
one
like,
of
pretty
them
much
just was that fart sound? I didn't know what modesty was, so you're taking people who just don't have have an idea of what these concepts are and pushing one upon them.
only thing I owned was yoga pants. And she said
yoga pants are apparently not modest enough. Okay.
Came like 3 or 4 times. They listened to one of the podcasts while going to the church on modesty. And she said, I was in tears. We went home and I told my husband, I said, I think we need to repent. He was like, I think so. And
I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys something real quick on Twitter. I'm gonna go off of this one. This is where we came from was, ladies, the age of women leadership is ending. Feminism blew it spectacularly. You now have 3 choices. 1, find a godly man to submit to. Become a ward of the state, or become property of a wannabe warlord. You'll live in the world of men, one way or another. Choose. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right. Sure. But I'm just gonna pull up this right here. This is Bonky. She is hilarious, and she has been doing something called #horny activism. And she says, let me just scroll down real quick a little bit here just to get to one of her more recent posts that's about the horny activism. Sorry, one moment. Here we go. Horny activism, part 63. Women shouldn't wear leggings to the gym. It's too distracting for the men. Men at the gym. No, not good enough for you? Okay, let's go a little bit further. Let's see this one. Horny activism, part 62. In honor of Christians claiming women's leggings are too revealing, each day I will be posting photos of men wearing almost nothing in public spaces. Nips out, thin shorts, women present, not mad about it. Alright, let's keep going. Intermittent fasting. Ads. Alright, let's keep going. Da-da-da. Here we go. Part 61. In honor of Christians claiming women's leggings are too revealing, each day I will be posting photos of men wearing almost nothing in public spaces. Prostitution! Wow, go figure. Alright, I'm gonna keep going. New meaning for the double-double just dropped. Let's keep going, shall we? Horny activism, part 60. Incels. Women need to take care of themselves. Nobody wants to see a woman with unshaven legs or armpits. That's disgusting. Meanwhile, men be like... Let's keep going. What else we got? There you go. 59. In honor of Christians claiming women's leggings are too revealing, each day I will be posting photos of men wearing almost nothing in public spaces. Oh, come on. You're not gonna play the video? Look at this dude's junk just totally flopping around here. Where's the modesty, guys? Where's your modesty? No, women wearing yoga pants. Not enough modesty. Also, you guys should totally check out @She's Bonky. I'm sure she will move off of Twitter when she is able to do so, but I digress. I'm just gonna put this little video... No, I don't want to favorite it. Get the fuck out of here. Here we go. I'm just gonna let this play off to the side while we continue the podcast.
He said we gathered them up. It's like 20 pairs of yoga pants. We threw them away, and my husband took me, and we didn't have a lot of money, but we went out and he bought me like 4 dresses. And I was like, it's really hard to quantify how amazing it is when God's at work in people's lives like that, especially in this culture. Like the diamond shines even brighter in this like cesspool of filth. But that really becomes like pastorally just your love for your people in those moments. It grows exponentially.
Does that give you a sense of hope?
Oh, big time. Yeah, I think so. And this is what I tell guys too. It's like when you look at Twitter, like there's not a lot like this latest Twitter debacle. There's not a lot of things to be like super hopeful about. There's just mostly like, people sharing like Smurf porn and stuff on my feed. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. When you get to see the change.
If anybody is sending this man Smurf porn in response to his activism and his hateful bigotry bullshit, not only is that incredibly immature of you, how dare you do something like that? Definitely don't keep doing that, and definitely don't make it just more and more egregious as it goes. What are you thinking? You bunch of immature, crazy people. What are you doing? I will now take this time to remind everybody to not go to cameo.com/ksorbs and pay money to Kevin Sorbo to read out his tweets.
Up close and personal, it makes everything worth it. And then it makes it where
the Smurf porn makes it worth it.
Honestly,
right? Of course.
You start to see that God is actually at work right now. There's huge opportunities.
Making all the Smurf
and the
porn.
ones that are up close and personal are more precious anyway. So
he just really likes the one that he's involved in and control. Right? The ones he can control, that's the one he's really into. That's what he really likes, this gross sense of power and maintaining this status quo of abuse. That's that middle set pendulum that this guy was talking about, right? Yeah, uh-huh.
You know, that whole thing of like heaven rejoices over one sinner who repents. I would say the same thing, like, you know, people are like, "Oh, you're gaining hundreds of followers on Twitter a day, like how does that not go to your head?" Like, I literally don't care, because like
it is in his head. It's already in his head. He's like, it's already all up in there. Don't you even pretend it's not.
I know, like, later I'm going to be meeting with this family and I've seen what God's done in their life and I've got to walk through that with them, and there's hurt and there's pain and there's good things, and you know, I've seen 6-figure wives give up their job so that they can come home to be with their kids. And
wow, imagine asking women to leave their place of employment and their work to become more reliant on someone instead of the man picking up whatever slack needs to be done. Go fucking figure. Manya for 100 said this is how you humble brag about the numbers, folks. Yeah, huh. I don't even care about the numbers.
know the sacrifice it is, and it was hard on them, and yet they're joyfully embracing all the hardship they're facing because the guy's going back into the workforce. And you watch that and you're like, there are a few things in life that are more precious than just faithful obedience and whatever it is that God's called those people to.
Yeah, I'm a provider.
So yeah, definitely that gives you hope that you know, God is at work. God is changing people. There are people who are getting it. We get to spend time.
So these guys are ripping apart women's lives to make men more comfortable. Okay.
I'm with them on a weekly basis, and that's really where all of the bulk of the joy comes from, is from them.
So if there's a young man or young woman, first half of their 20s, listening right now that's struggling to find their way inside or outside the church,
how old do you guys think these guys would guess that I am?
looking at the world, confused about their place in it, like what would you say to them out of your experience?
Yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, you can't do it alone. I think Satan and the enemy loves to isolate people. I've been in those positions. Even, believe it or not, I was like pastoring a church.
You are isolating the women from your description, though. You're isolating those women by taking them out of the workforce and taking them away from their peers and putting them into the home to be around toddlers. You're isolating those women. So, if that's harm and that's Satan's work, isolating people, that's what you're doing. Highlighted message, I do not understand why they do have to break and tear women down to build up. Sorry, do not understand. Because they're fragile and weak. Vegri said these guys can probably smell your atrophied ovaries. Or atrophied ovaries, sorry, atrophied ovaries. Oh yeah. Dried up like fucking raisins.
In a small town, and I was pretty isolated. Didn't have a lot of peers, didn't have a lot of friends, didn't have a lot of people who saw the world the way I did.
I can't imagine why. Overcome, adapt, harder, better, faster, stronger.
Shared the same mission.
I like how these guys are talking about being such strong men, but like try to isolate themselves in little yes men groups because of how fragile they are.
etc. And that was really dark and hard. And there's a lot of challenges. Like the world really is, I think, against people who want to live anything resembling like a trad Christian faithful life.
No, yeah, see, Mr. Sirius said they're also making it so the women are dependent, so they can't leave. If they divorce, they won't have a recent work history, and it'd be much harder to find work. And it's not just that. Divorce would be listed as a sin. You wouldn't be able to divorce, and like he described earlier, it's stop complaining about your husband. Just stop complaining about it. It doesn't matter what he's doing. Stop complaining about it. You're sent to obey, so you just gotta be complacent. You just need to sit around and do whatever your husband says, and if it's not working, it's because of you. You're not doing it right. Completely ignoring that the man at that point has entirely broken the covenant with his wife and God, because that can never be the case. Not even something these fucking morons have considered.
Right? You have a lot of forces at work against you. All that's true. I would say one of the biggest things you can do is find a community, particularly for men. Find a gang of men who have your back, who can fight with you.
A gang.
Who can
join a gang.
You, who can tell you to shut up when you're being too emotional.
Tell you to shut up when you're being too emotional. Go find some friends that are gonna... go find a gang of people that are gonna abuse you because you have feelings.
Who can discipline you in the ways that you need to point out your failures, to show you the ways that you can grow. But I think more than anything, just to cultivate that friendship. I was saying this to another pastor friend. He said, you know, I feel down in this time, you know, it's so discouraging. And I said, you know, I want you to be encouraged by what I'm about to.
You're gonna tell him to shut up and stop having feelings about it. Shut up and preach, bitch.
Tell you, I don't feel that way at all. And I'm not saying that to rub it in your face. I'm saying it because it doesn't have to be this way.
My experience is different than yours, therefore your experience is wrong. That is literally all these guys have to say about anything. It's if your experience isn't my experience, and my experience is one that I agree with, therefore your experience it being different means that it is wrong. There is such a problem with that kind of mentality. It is disgusting. It completely negates that people have different experiences and completely negates any kind of growth that in any direction that any culture could possibly have, because it completely neglects the idea. How could you possibly describe yourselves as being empathetic when this is the way you respond to somebody having a feeling about something, or somebody having an experience that is different from yours? You're not empathetic. You don't give a shit. All you care about is you and your experience, and because it's your experience and it's your perception of that experience, everything else that isn't that is wrong because it's different. That sounds like Jesus, right? That sounds like what Jesus was saying. Jesus was running around being like, everybody has to be like me. He was doing that, but where did he pull people from? Different walks of life, from different perspectives? Good job taking the worst part of Jesus and completely misrepresenting it, fucko.
But it is hard work for people to find the right community, right? I think there's a few places.
No wonder these dudes are working on their renaissance and don't like the direction the world is going, because they don't fit in anymore, because they're not the ones in charge anymore, because their way of doing things is considered abusive as fuck. I can't imagine why. You don't want to get with the times. We just want to keep abusing people. They are confusing apathy with empathy. Yeah.
Right now that are doing really well. And I would just encourage people, if you're like Naomi and you're bitter, right? She said, call me Mara because I'm bitter. If you're like Naomi, you look around you and the churches and the communities and you say, where is Bethlehem? Where is the house of bread? You remember there was a famine in the book, early in the book of Ruth. And so Naomi just says,
biblical character.
I lost my son.
Sorry, I thought he meant like Naomi on Twitter or something. Sorry, they mean Naomi in the Bible.
You know, my sons, I've lost my daughters, except for Ruth. My husband's dead. What do I do? Well, in the midst of all the famine, where's their bread? Where's God delivering? Where are their people feasting? and rejoicing and prospering. Like, we don't get to pick where God puts his blessing.
So God's just blessing all the fucking rich people that are hoarding it? Is that what you're getting at? Like, what the fuck?
But that was one of the things I realized with Refuge was like, I don't know. I can see that God's blessing, so I'm going to go there. I'm going to go where the blessing is.
Are you just
So I think
trying
being
to
able to
become
find that community.
So you're just trying to become a televangelist?
Community where you can find
You're talking about just going to become a leech off of all the other people who are being blessed? You should go suck up to those people? This is weird.
nourishment for your soul is going to be pivotal. And that may be a lot of hard work. It was for me. It didn't happen right away. It took years. But I think finding people that you can stand next to, we are created for community. And I think if you can find that, look, don't be looking for perfect by any means. But once you get in the midst of that community, I think that's where you start to see hope. You know, I think about my life and all the darkest times that I've ever had. The things that always brought me hope was like a friend would call you, friend would show up, friend would have lunch with you. We'll just
and tell you to stop being a little bitch about your problems and abuse you emotionally. Yeah.
You know, think about that. If you're in despair about the way the world is, you need flesh and blood, face-to-face people who can encourage you. And
I mean, that's
you know, I
true.
would say too, don't discount things like social media. Like, I found my gang on Twitter, which seems just absurd, but I was just throwing out truth, seeing what stuck to the wall, and really I was saying, who resonates with this? And there was actually a church and a community with Dan and Brian here who said, we're actually 100% on what you're saying. Like, come do this work with us, you know? And so, yeah, I think if you can find that camaraderie, it's something too that
If you can find people who agree with you, you too can start your own weird cult. And you too can also start abusive practices.
one of the things I was reading was Bronze Age Pervert, actually. And one of the things I really liked in that book, this is back in like 2020 before I came to Refuge. Towards the end of the book, he talks about like these bands, roving bands of like male friendships, right? Like this concept. And I was like, oh, that's absurd. And then you read like,
You mean like the boys' trip? Like, that's not even new. Like, not only is that not new, it's not even uncommon. The bands are boys that go on road trips to play music, and sometimes there's women involved, and sometimes there's groups of women, and sometimes there's a woman in the group. There's also, like, going on road trips. There's a Final Fantasy game where it's just 3-4 bros driving around the continent. Like, it's a whole game. There's plenty of movies that are like that as well. They're just like buddy cop movies. Like, what is this dude talking about? Like, these things don't fucking exist. Nobody's stopping you. Feminism isn't stopping you from doing these things. These are normal things. You're just making them gross by adding abuse into them. This is what I mean when I say that toxic masculinity doesn't mean masculinity is toxic. There's plenty of wholesome what's considered traditionally masculine things to go and do. Like a fishing trip, like a road trip, like going hunting, whatever the fuck you want to do with your dude bros. Go play pool, go hang out at the bar. All these things are totally fucking fine and totally okay. It's the fact that these men like this, are adding abusive shit into it, like shitting on your friends for having feelings, like abusing women and just telling them to sit down and shut up if they have fucking complaints, and being oppressive towards women and having them quit their jobs and their work because if they don't, the family is failing because that's on them, because everything is women's fault. No, it's men like this that are adding toxic bullshit into totally fine masculine activities.
the old Greek mythology, and you're like, no, I think that's actually true. You start looking at it for your own life.
You
and
don't
say,
know
like,
enough about the Greeks and how much
what is
fucking
one of the
there was
pervasive,
between
most
men.
biggest problems that men face in our culture today? I think it's that they don't have friends.
Yeah.
And I saw one of my favorite memes.
No, it's because you disagree with what friends are. You think friends should be abusing you. A lot of people don't agree with that. You don't want to be friends with people who abuse them.
It was like everybody talks about the miracles that Jesus did, but nobody talks about the miracle that he had 12 friends in his 30s.
He didn't have 12 friends. He had 12 disciples. Those aren't the same thing. There's a paradynamic that's part of that. He might have been friends with them also, but they were disciples, and there was a very clear hierarchy between Jesus and his disciples. Very, very distinctively.
I'm like, yeah, that is actually true. Most guys don't have two friends.
Yeah.
But Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, they're clear on this. There is a brother who is born for adversity. A man of many companions will come to ruin. But you're looking for that guy who will bleed and die with you in the fight. And that really does get you through that.
He wants a ride or die, best buddy. I mean, I can understand wanting something like that in your life. I can empathize with that. I can understand wanting to have friends and have people that you get along with, and like whether they're in real life or whether they're online, whatever that may be, you gotta find people that you can be friends with, but that takes effort and it takes work, and that's a bit of a cultural problem because people don't have fucking time because they're too busy working 3 jobs to survive. That's not a femininity problem. It's a culture
The difficulties.
Issue. Amazing. Yeah, I
Were
can
you
second
listening?
all of that for the men listening is to not try and go at it alone. To not be out there trying to fight the battle on your own. Find brothers, find where the bread is. You're gonna need it. Because one of the first things before I found Apologia, I went to a church here in Phoenix and
Wow. This has been quite the dive. I mean, in polling in America, men only claim to have 1 to 2 friends. The thing is most women also claim to have 1 to 2 friends. I mean, that's great. I want him to prove it, though. This has been a trip. This has been a road down the nonsense rabbit hole of garbage. Fucking yikes.